Wanted to chat about whenever you're trying to figure out the best course of action in your particular situation. And this is really hard because everyone's going to give you their opinions. Everyone's going to tell you what they think you should do. Most people aren't going to understand what you're going through, so their advice is going to be significantly flawed. But even if they do know and they have a good understanding of what you're going through, you still have to make the best decision that's for you. Now, hey, there's nothing wrong with listening to people's opinions, getting their advice, evaluating their options, and then ultimately deciding whatever you want to do. That's great. And I like to get other people's opinions, so that's great. The thing is, at the end of the day, whatever decision you make, it has to be a decision that you can feel okay with, that you feel comfortable with, and that ties in with you as a person. I've had a lot of advice throughout all of this from people telling me to do different things. A real common one that I think a lot of people struggle with is how you should deal with your kids when they're struggling and working through this. I had my own family and friends tell me that I needed to lay the hammer down and it needed to be my way, and the kids had to treat me in a certain way, and if they weren't, then I needed to have severe and significant immediate consequences. Now, that sounds all well and good, but in our situations, there's a lot of things going on. There's a hell of a lot of moving parts with this. The biggest part of this is our kids are struggling with this too. They're stuck in the middle and they're trying to make the most of it. There's probably a good chance that they've been alienated from you, and the stories that have been being told are being believed. I had that happen with me, and I found that out later. I mean, I could tell it was going on at the beginning, but I've had it later where the kids would tell me about certain things that were going on, or how they felt about things, or how they blamed me for it, or how they didn't realize there was two sides to the story. Somebody can sit there and tell you, never tell the kids anything, you're going to protect them from everything. And I'm using this as an example because it's a tough balance, right? Because if your kids are being alienated against you and you're trying to be virtuous and you're trying to do everything you're supposed to do and not get into the game, a lot of time what happens is that you're being completely slandered. You're not defending yourself with your kids. This is where it's a little bit different than with normal flying monkeys because it's pointless to argue with them. But with your kids, then there's a different balance. And you're going to ultimately have to decide what's right for you. If you're okay with, I'm not going to say anything, I'm going to just approach it to where I'm just going to demonstrate to the kids that I love them, that I care about them, and just try to demonstrate that the stories that are being told aren't true, or that I'm a different person now, or whatever the case may be. Conversely, you might feel the need to have some conversations to explain yourselves. Now, at the end of the day, you have to pick the decision that you can live with, that you feel good with. Again, it's good to get other people's advice. I've had people ask me for my advice, but at the end of the day, you take all that information in, you look at what the good parts that people are telling you and the bad parts, and you figure out what's the best decision for you to make. Now, it's super tough because a lot of times we're so confused and scared and just unsure that we don't know. But I would venture to guess that most of the time when we look inside, we know what the best answer for our situation is. You have to take every situation with its own unique parameters. You know how your kids are. You know how they're going to react. You probably have a good idea of how this whole story is being spun against you, and your ex knows you and knows how you're going to react and knows how to push your buttons and knows how to prime your kids for that reaction that you're more than likely going to make. Now, that's where you look and you just decide what is the best course of action. Now, typically the advice I will give is, you know what they're trying to get you to do. You know what the smear is. You know what you're being portrayed as. So try to make sure that you're not doing anything to validate that or to reinforce that, which makes things worse. And in my situation, when I was younger, and this was happening between me and my dad, he was being portrayed, rightfully so, as somebody who could get really angry and only cared about himself and all these different things. And what would happen is when I would interact with him and I would take my little finger and boop, push it right in his eye, he would get angry and he would respond those ways. Not because he was the monster that he was being portrayed to be, but it was because the situation was stressing him out so much, pushing his buttons so much, that was the raw guttural reaction that he would have, and he would respond that way. Now, he couldn't communicate with me or to me to explain to me what was really going on. So in my mind, what I saw was, oh, he's doing exactly what my mom is saying he's going to do. So that means she must be right. The illusion I have of him must be true, and it just reinforces it. So my point is, look at your own situation. Take all of this information in, and then make the best decision for you. You more than likely know when you take that step back and you look at the whole situation and you understand what your ex is trying to do and you understand where your kids are coming from, you have the best information to look at it and say, okay, this is the best course of action. If I go down this road, I can pretty much expect how my children are going to react, what's going to happen, and how to do it. I've had some conversations with some people where I've seen them do just that, and they've made some pretty good decisions, some decisions that I wouldn't have necessarily made, but it seems to be working in their really complicated situation. So on that, reach out and get advice. Make sure you understand who the advice is coming from. If it doesn't feel right to you, if it just doesn't feel right, I mean, if someone's telling you to do something like I was talking about earlier, where it's like, okay, if the kids come home and they're disrespecting you, then you ground them and you take their devices away and you turn the internet off and you do this and you do that. You have to look at the situation as a whole. Hey, maybe if you think that your kids will respond that way, in a positive way, fine, do that. I know in my situation, they wouldn't. It would have been a catastrophic mistake. Let me back up. It was a catastrophic mistake that I did make. I didn't completely follow everyone's advice, but I did try that route. But it was readily apparent rather quickly that it wasn't effective, that it ended up creating more problems than it was worth. For instance, in my situation, when I would do that, pretty much if I had my 5-day period with the kids, it would basically take until I get the kids on Wednesday. It would take until the weekend for things to start calming down. Once I realized that if I kind of gave them a pass on that Wednesday, didn't like this is the rules and this is how it's going to be, by Thursday, pretty much everything was back to normal. Now, from doing that and implementing that, I'm in a situation where when the kids come in the door on Wednesday, it's like they never left. So that's my experience. Maybe it'll work for you, maybe it won't, but it's something to think about, and it's something to ponder when you're looking at your situation and taking that step back and looking at how you think your kids are going to respond. What is the best way to get through to them to try to dive through that? So I hope this is helpful, because I know a lot of people are struggling with this, and when you're so much in the middle of this and you're just at a loss because everything you do is a mistake. And unfortunately, in a lot of situations, in the reality of our situations, most of our decisions are wrought with problems and complexities. And we don't get to make the decisions that we really want to make, and we have somebody actively campaigning against us, so it complicates it. Just stick with it. Bottom line is just make sure your kids know that you love them, that you're there for them, and that you're not just going to be basically, angry with them all the time. That slowly starts to build that trust and build that relationship up. So on that, I'm going to wrap this video up, and I will chat with you on the next video. Take care. Bye.